Great. So welcome everybody. I'm so happy to have all of you here with us to spotlight on SALTO, a series of 6 online info sessions aimed at highlighting the opportunities of the Erasmus Plus Youth and European Solidarity Core programs, where you get the chance to learn more about the activities and tools of SALTO resource centers and the humans behind all this amazing work. So today is our 3rd online session, and we are really happy to put the spotlight on recognition and Youthpass together with SALTO training and cooperation. And I know from a really, really good source, it's a secret, but I will share it with you, that today we might actually find out what is the secret of Youthpass, I mean, of course, I hope you know. And today we'll explore why should one pay attention to learning in youth work and in volunteering, and how, and what else is there for us all to learn from the Youthpass strategy. I'll take us through what we will do today. So we will start by getting to know a bit more about who is here in the room. I saw that already you posted in the chat where you're joining us from, and we'll get the chance to know a bit more about you as we move on. We'll then get to hear more about SALTO training and cooperation and the people that are behind this work. They will take us through, they will explore with us the various aspects of Youthpass, how it supports learning, what we should know about its new strategy, but also new certificates, future plans, and so much more. As we go on through with all this information, I will invite you to please ask any questions you may have, because in the end, we'll have a space to answer them, and the team will get the chance to do that. It's going to be a full session, so I hope that you brought your water, your snacks, your questions with you. I'm delighted to be here with you. My name is Dani, and I'm going to be the facilitator of this online session. Together with me in the facilitation team is Michele, who you had the chance to hear earlier, who is dealing with all the digital facilitation, but also Vanda, who is our graphic recorder, who will have the gorgeous job of putting everything that we discussed today in a beautiful drawing that we will get the chance to see as we move on through our conversation. All right. Before we start, I'm just gonna ask everybody, because I know, we live in these times where we jump from one meeting to another. Maybe we just finished work and we join this online session. So I will invite you all to, let's just take a minute to arrive properly at this event. And if you feel comfortable, please close your eyes for a second or just lower your gaze and take a really, really deep breath in. And a deep breath out. And as you do that, perhaps with your eyes closed, please take a moment to set out an intention for today, a learning intention. What is it that you would like to leave this meeting richer with after you listen to everything? Thank you all. Thank you for breathing a bit with me. I hope that brought you a bit even more present to our meeting. Please, if you feel comfortable, share with us in the chat your intention for today. What is it that you would like to learn? All right. So let's get it going. as I said, we will start with getting to know you a little bit more, and I will ask Michele to copy paste in the chat a link towards Menti. I'm sure by now all of you have been using Menti a lot. If not, Menti is a pretty cool tool that we can use to see with interactive kind of questions, answers, and not only. You will go to the link that is in the chat, and over there you will see a question. So first, what I would be really, really curious is to know, besides the places that you are coming from, what are some of the roles that you are joining us with, maybe some of the hats, right? Tell us if you are a youth worker, a youth leader, an NA officer staff, SALTO officer staff, policymaker, trainer, facilitator, and so on. And Michele, maybe you could also show us a bit. Let's see who is here. Let's see. So we have, hello, NA officers. So many of you here with us, 13. Welcome, welcome. We have youth workers. We have people from SALTO centers, trainer, facilitators, and a youth leader. Hello to our one youth leader. You are so welcome here. And for the 5 people who pressed other, please do tell us in the chat who else is here and we did not know. Great. Welcome, everybody. It's good to have different perspectives for this conversation. It's very useful. Okay, Michele, let's go to the next one. All right. From all of these roles in which you are in, let us know what is your experience with Youthpass until now. So we will use a scale for this, starting from never used it to it has no secrets for me. Let's see what is happening here. What is the level of knowledge and experience that you have with Youthpass? 2.6, so we are kind of in the middle. That's great. Let's see if by the end of this session, we will move towards a 5. As I told you today, many secrets will be shared. We are very lucky to be here together to hear them. All right, so I see 2.8. That's a pretty good score. I see people are very well acquainted with Youthpass. So please do share as you are going with us from your experience and use this session for you to get your knowledge even more complete and more full with information that is useful for you. Okay, before we continue, I see here in the chat that we have some the different roles that were not mentioned in the Menti: volunteer coordinator, 2 volunteer coordinators, international relations officer. Great, welcome everybody. Okay, great. So now that we got the chance to know you, all the places that you come from, all the roles that you are joining us from, and your experience with Youthpass, I'm going to invite the team to introduce themselves and to get us started.
Hi everyone. So I see that I'm in the spotlight on SALTO. So I'm Eda Bakr. I work in the Youthpass team of SALTO Training and Cooperation Resource Center.
And I am Kristina Pernitz, also myself. I work in SALTO Training and Cooperation Resource Center in the Youthpass team together with
me. Hi, I'm Milena and I'm working with Eda and with Kristina, and that's just a half of our SALTO team. We have as well our European strategy team, and they are training strategy team, of course, and that's all together we are SALTO Training and Cooperation Resource Center. Yes. So
Yeah, luckily for those of you who were interested and registered or will decide to register, in the next events of the Spotlight on SALTO sessions, then there will be a presentation of the European training strategy as well. So you will be able to meet the rest of our team too. But today we are here as the Youthpass team, and we decided to share the secret of Youthpass with you, because we thought that's kind of fitting to what we do. I wonder if you are able to see my screen, because I started and now yep, you do. So this was the promise when we launched the event, to share the secret of Youthpass. Then we felt the pressure and we said, okay, but what is the secret to youth? And we had to dig into the good old Google and came up with, okay, there are some interesting facts that we collected, were not aware while working with Youthpass. But then we pondered and realized, actually, no, we do know that eating chocolate keeps you young. And this is what we do in our team. We always have a good stack of chocolate in our office. So while we are working in developing the Youthpass strategy and the certificates and the meetings, this is how we fuel ourselves. Eat a lot of chocolate and keep youthful, hopefully. Another thing we discovered is that a social life, not being completely isolated and lonely, helps a lot to keep youth and youthful. And here we go. We are a team, an international team on a Bonn voyage, as we say it, because we are based in Bonn, in Germany, with the rest of our SALTO training and cooperation colleagues. So this is another thing that we do to keep youthful.
The third important aspect of it is keeping your brain active. So we try to do that. And even more than that, we have this educational mission. So we also try to keep the brains of other people active as well. And it all starts from the basics, from the name. Well, you can see it's written big here, and I'm sure all of you are aware. We are the SALTO Training and Cooperation Resource Center. But over the years, there have been a lot of different versions being disseminated and quite some confusion. So through such phenomena already, we hope that we can already keep everyone else focused as well through little tricks and tips like that. What is it? SALTO Youthpass, and smiling makes you look younger. So I think there's great wisdom in such boulevard headlines. If it's not fun, it's not sustainable. We care a lot about sustainability and, of course, fun as well. Humor plays a great role in the culture of our team, as well as other ways of making it nice, the cooperation. So, for example, one thing I'm completely very grateful about, I didn't tell you, Eda, so far, but it's this habit of posting a song of the week. That's one thing that characterizes, one little fact that characterizes our team culture as well.
Yeah, we hope that you got a bit of hint of this Youthpass, the secret to Youthpass, our team, and what we do to keep youthful. But we also don't want to annoy you with this pseudo-scientific knowledge sharing. So please don't miss out on our great colleagues, SALTO participation and information colleagues, who have the participation pool. And part of it is dedicated to hints on fact-checking and quality information. So don't do as we do. Check the facts, but keep eating chocolate, because it's always helpful. So that's us. I now stop sharing my screen and leave it to Dani.
And I think you made everybody now with a big desire of eating chocolate. So thank you for that. Some virtual chocolate for everybody. And as we do that, I know that people right now are under the influence of chocolate. However, what I would like us to do is go back to our mentee and go back to you a bit before we start diving into the Youthpass. It's the same link, so if you still have it open, that's great. And in addition to what we've already found out about you, we would be curious to see what are a few words that you associate with Youthpass. So when you think about it, what 3 words come to your mind? Please add them there so that we can see what is here, what is the collective idea when it comes to Youthpass. So of course we have learning, we have reflection, we have certificate, recognition, empowerment, awareness, connecting, competence, skills, structure. Yeah, maybe wait a few more seconds for everybody to add their words. Self-reflection, participation, outcomes, validations, outcomes, youth work. All right. So this is what comes to your mind when you think about Youthpass. Let's see a bit, what do these dear people from SALTO Training and Cooperation think when they think about Youthpass? And we're going to go and see a very short video just for us to get introduced into Youthpass and everything about it, and then we continue. It's coming.
Sorry,
this is
yeah,
just the like the suspense, like in the movies.
So you're not sharing the screen.
Yeah, it is coming in a second. So with these words in mind, dear people, let's see in a way what is the official presentation when it comes to Youthpass.
And here it comes.
Youthpass is a recognition tool and a process that helps participants, both young people and youth workers, in projects supported by the
Maybe, Michele, we cannot hear the volume, so maybe you could play it again. Sorry for this.
Sorry, that was exactly the problem I thought I had solved, but instead you're telling me I don't. So let me check again.
Well, let's, as we were joking before this webinar started, we are definitely increasing our digital competence by exploring this online session. And we are happy to have you with us here as well. Oh yes, Bahadir, system needs chocolate. I think that is the reality. Unfortunately, it has been overused and didn't get enough chocolate.
So, let me try once again. And please tell me if you hear it this time.
Youthpass is a recognition tool and a process that helps participants, both young people and youth workers, in projects supported by the EU youth programs to become aware of their learning. The Youthpass process is all about putting learning on the agenda, setting learning objectives, reflecting on the experience, recording this reflection, and documenting learning outcomes using the Youthpass certificate. This process of reflection and self-assessment is ideally supported and guided by a facilitator of learning such as a youth worker, trainer, mentor, or a coach. By reflecting on what they have learned, participants become more aware of their own competencies and can better explain them to others. They also improve their understanding of learning as such and are better equipped to manage their future learning paths. Besides, for young people and youth workers, having a Youthpass certificate showing their self-assessment can be a valuable addition to their portfolio. The certificate showcases their experience and the competences they have acquired. Through this process, Youthpass increases the learning value of a project and contributes to Europe-wide efforts to recognize non-formal and informal learning. Curious about Youthpass? Need more ideas how to support the reflection process? Go to youthpass.eu. The website has many resources to help you support a learning journey in a European youth project. We wish you a wonderful learning journey.
Amazing. Thank you, technology, for being here with us today. Good. So let's dive a bit more deep into it. Eda, come on here with me. Yeah. So yeah, I was wondering if you could go a bit more into depth and share a bit with us around learning in youth work. Anything that you would like to add following the video?
Yes, I'm happy to. I will again go into this sharing my screen in the meantime. And while I do that, please do not hesitate to share in the chat how the video, what you heard from the video resonates with you, in what ways it does. I think it should work now. Oh, sorry. My screen sharing should work now, but I am sure my colleagues will let me know if it doesn't. So when we talk about Youthpass, then we need to talk about learning, because this is what Youthpass is supporting and what it is about. And we saw the Mentimeter, so there's a big majority of NA colleagues here, quite a few SALTO colleagues and many youth workers. So we are, I assume, very familiar with this learning in youth work, international youth work and volunteering activities, and the European youth programs being about non-formal and informal learning mostly, to a good extent, and that it supports transversal competence development of the young people who participate in it. By the way, I'm sorry that the screen, the letters are very small, but we will be sending you the presentation later on. So don't worry that you do not, if you cannot read it all. What we wanted to show with this slide, which is a small excerpt taken from the Time to Show Off research report, a project implemented by several national agencies exploring exactly learning in youth work from the perspective of youth workers and young people taking part in it. When the microphone is given to young people themselves on what they learn from youth work activities, they say exactly that they learn transversal competences in different ways. How they learn to be more vulnerable, discover more, and discover questions about themselves, and discover what they want to learn next. This is also confirmed by the youth workers who work with them, how they see this change in the young people who take part in the projects. But this is not also only what young people themselves and the youth workers say. This is also something that research on the international youth work activities and on the programs say. But this excerpt is taken from Ray research-based analysis of European youth programs, the network of Ray, analysis on Erasmus plus Youth in Action program on the key competence development. This is taken from a fact sheet. You may not be able to see exactly what under each key competence, what young people they have learned, but you may see that for the most of the key competence areas, young people agree or strongly agree, up to 70 to 80%, that the programs support their learning, how to cooperate in a team, or to have more fun when they are learning, and to plan their future learning paths, communicate with other people speaking different languages, and so on and so forth. So this is more or less to give you a few hints from different documents and insights from research that puts words to the learners on what they learn in these activities. And how does Youthpass come into this picture? How does Youthpass connect to learning in youth work and solidarity and volunteering activities? Well, you probably know Youthpass is a certificate. It's a certificate issued to the learners who take part in European youth programs and the Solidarity Corps program. But the certificate documents the participation in the project, but it also gives a space to define the learning outcomes. And this is ideally done throughout a supportive process throughout the project that brings learning into agenda. Actually, here a small pointer again, Ray research suggests that most of the young people, one of the biggest motivation for many young people to join European and international youth activities is actually to learn and to develop their competences. So they have it in the agenda in a way. So the supported process of reflection helps to keep this in the agenda and to name learning and to name competences. Maybe in some cases the things that young people or different people would not name as learning, but to together understand what learning means in this context, what they are learning, how to support it, how to reflect on learning, and how to keep track and document this. And it, in the end, provide a certificate of this process and the outcomes of this process. This is what how Youthpass supports the programs and the learners in the programs. So when we talk about Youthpass ourselves in the Youthpass team, while developing and thinking about Youthpass, we start from the certificate, but we start from the experience and how this process supports the experience and leads to it. Besides that, being a certificate and process, the third leg of Youthpass is it is a strategy. Until now, how we refer to it was this strategic approach to supporting learning, talking about learning, about recognition, recognition of the learning value of youth work and solidarity activities. But very soon, in a matter of days, we are actually talking about a strategy document that will also shape the work of our team, but also our stakeholders. Just to close this part about how Youthpass connects to learning and learning in youth work in general, I again wanted to give the voice to a young person who took part in youth activities and indeed confirmed what the research, what the data says, that with a supported process of reflection with a mentor, Youthpass made a difference in the project and future steps of this young person involved, as confirmed by Ray Network's research results. I hope this part was clear. Please feel free to share your reflections in the chat. But having talked about the strategy a little bit, now I want to pass the word to Christina, who will be introducing the Youthpass strategy to us.
Exactly, as Eda already said, so we have been seeing quite some efforts this year and also last year to work on the Youthpass strategy. We are in the last meters before the finish line with this work. It's a text which has already been agreed upon and proofread, and we will be publishing it pretty soon. We will come back to that. But firstly, about what is the strategy about? And with this work, we have been imagining what is it that we would like to reach by more or less the end of the new program period. So by the end of 2027. And we have formulated this vision as following, that we will be working towards a broad visibility and understanding of the learning value of the youth field, so to say, of youth work and of volunteering, and also of the or towards the visibility and understanding of also the competencies that are being developed through involvement in the youth field, then either as young people participating in the various activities, or also as youth workers or other support people, such as volunteer coordinators in the volunteering projects. This is the vision, and I will also be saying a few words about the content and the setup of this Youthpass strategy, as we call it. In very broad terms, it is divided into 3 fields of action. And here, this picture, it shows you another secret. It's a pyramid scheme, this Youthpass strategy of ours. And the broad is the basis of this whole work ahead of us, and also where we are in the middle of it, of course, as well already. So the basis of it is the implementation of Youthpass. That's the core of our work here in SALTO Training and Cooperation Youthpass part of the team. You may be actually asking also that what is the relationship actually to Youthpass here, because Youthpass, it's a tool of the 2 youth programs of Erasmus Plus Youth Part and the European Solidarity Core. So it's a tool, the recognition tool embedded in the youth program, and as such, it's rather the recognition tool and strategy of the European Commission. But the Commission has entrusted us here in SALTO Training and Cooperation Resource Center to manage the and coordinate the implementation and further development, so the actual practical development of the Youthpass concept. And this is also the reason why it's us presenting the whole work around it. So this is, as I said, the core of us, and the first field of action, or field of action 1 in the Youthpass strategy. It describes, on the one hand, the whole development of Youthpass, the way we would like it to develop further, as a certificate, as a tool, as an IT tool as well. And also, what are the needed measures to be planned and thought along in order for ensuring the visibility for Youthpass, so that it's there, it's present for both youth field, but also beyond, for the stakeholders, for the other stakeholders that also need to know about Youthpass. And also, what are the educational measures around Youthpass, so that it's not only that the awareness is there, but also that this the tools and the know-how in the youth field would be there about how do I implement this process then? How do I introduce it to the young people, and what are the nice and effective measures or methods of putting it on the agenda in my projects, in my youth projects? And finally, but definitely least, or last but not least, is also the cooperation with the national agency network. That's also something that we see as the core of also working around the implementation or with the implementation of Youthpass. Secondly, we are coming to field of action 2, the middle part of it, which is developing the potential of learning and recognition practices in youth work. And as such, we are looking also beyond the immediate implementation within the 2 youth programs. So within this field of action, we are aiming at creating the culture of learning, or creating the reflective culture in youth work as such, or at least to support and make our contribution to this reflective culture in order to have learning on the agenda. So we would be exploring youth work as such, as a learning context. We would be exploring how it happens and what are the ways of supporting it. And another big block in that second field of action is looking into who else is there. Well, Youthpass is perhaps the biggest recognition tool on the European level for youth work, but it definitely is not the only one. There are several other stakeholders and organizations who work for the same cause, for making the learning value of youth work and volunteering better visible and understandable. And this is what we also aim towards, to map the situation to start with, who else is there, and then to take some common steps into looking at how can we join our forces, how can we cooperate to have a stronger voice towards making this greater awareness around that topic of the learning value of youth work, and creating a better awareness of the competencies, the potential of the competencies, competence development in youth work and volunteering. And thirdly, the top of the pyramid is the field of action 3, and that relates to informing and supporting the policy processes related to recognition and validation. And there are various dimensions of work that we can support there. Firstly, we do have quite some awareness about what youth work can support. Eda was already sharing quite some insights related to what is the learning value, and the evidence can perhaps better support the policy development. So this is what we aim towards in that field, third field of action. In our own work plans, but more importantly, in cooperation with the national agencies, we aim at also looking into ways of how we can implement some of the policy suggestions and recommendations on both European as well as on national levels. That's the second aspect of that field of action. And thirdly, we have already been working at, or that's part of the principles that we follow, is also to share the policy-related information with the community of practice, as we like to call it these days, and this will stay an important part of that field of action 3 in the future as well. So this is very broadly speaking about what is the content of our Youthpass strategy. But before we go on, maybe you may be wondering about, what is then special about it, or what is new about it? And Eda, I'm wondering, what is perhaps new for you about it, or important for you about this strategy of ours?
Yeah, well, there are different elements, definitely, and you were mentioning several of them. But for once, all this directions and vision for the whole concept of Youthpass is explicit, and it's shared because the coming up with a strategy was also a shared process. There have been consultations with various stakeholders, so the different opinions were there. So the whole process was shared, and then it brought to a product that's hopefully it will be a living document, living process, and along the way may also develop. But having this vision that connects a tool of the programs to the bigger picture of recognition of the learning value of youth work and youth work activities and beyond youth work, let's say solidarity activities as well, is what I find special. So this puts this concrete document, this certificate into this, what we say, more than a paper, more than a certificate. It makes this idea more explicit and more visible from my point of view. I find connections to different strategic processes, both program strategies and beyond, crucial, because this then helps to see what actually the field, from my point of view, experiences. The youth field experience is a holistic experience. It's not bits and pieces here of this topic and that topic here, but it puts things into a bigger picture and finds the connections. So I appreciate this, and our search for finding connections between different processes in this not to exclude quite crucial European Youth Work Agenda and the Bonn process that in December have been launched with the latest European Youth Convention, to build on these waves and impulses as well, and indeed to connect this tool program element to the bigger vision for the youth field and volunteering field experiences and learning therein. And you? What would you consider the special element of the having a strategy, Youthpass strategy?
I completely agree with what you say. It's well, we have had quite a process to develop this. So we have had consultations with the field and with different stakeholders. So it has also evolved according to the feedback and the discussions that we had, and it's not only our own thinking and looking at it back. Or backwards as an outcome. I completely agree. Like as such, and as a way of connecting it to the bigger processes, what I specifically would like to bring out is the new European Youth Work Agenda, as well as, of course, the European Youth Strategy as well. Specifically also the European Youth Work Agenda, which does invite various stakeholders to contribute to this process and to contribute to having a big European youth work agenda with their various different processes and agendas. And with this Youthpass strategy, we do directly feed into one angle of the European Youth Work Agenda, of the recognition of learning in youth work. And indeed, it has also been helpful for clarifying the focus of our work, because when we speak about recognition, we might be speaking about different aspects of it. We may also be just speaking broadly about the recognition of and advocacy for youth work as such, and that's not really our focus. What we do focus on is this learning value and learning aspect of youth work and volunteering. Indeed, the visibility aspect is an important aspect of it. So I hope that this will also help to make the connections to the various stakeholders who feel addressed perhaps and feel connected by the various measures and suggestions made in the strategy. One quite specific aspect that has received more visibility, I think, through the strategy development is the connection to the youth workers. Because through the document, we are also making it more explicit that youth workers may have, or probably do have, specific needs. How these needs actually look like this, we will still need to have a specific consultation process about, but we expect that the recognition-related needs are different when it comes to youth workers than when we're talking about the young participants of the two youth programs and of youth work as such. And we do aim to also develop specific solutions for youth workers in this regard as well, being it related to the setup of the Youthpass certificates and considering the competence framework for the Youthpass certificate, or also when thinking in a more longer term perspective and thinking about how Youthpass as a concept as such should also develop further. And one perhaps clarification that we have also been working on in this process of developing the strategy is the terminology related to validation versus recognition, because that's something that I think has not really arrived so well in the youth work field yet, the whole concept and the process of validation. And correct me if I'm wrong, I'm also addressing it this to the audience, but I think that this awareness that with our work, when we are using Youthpass, for example, to support our young participants and volunteers learning, we are also doing validation work, that this understanding has not really yet reached all of the organizations yet. Although this is the case, to explain what is meant with volunteering on the European level these days and in this policy processes, well, it's a big policy process, related back to 2012 recommendation on validation of non-formal and informal learning from different contexts where non-formal and informal learning happens. So also in adult education, as well as learning in workplace, but definitely also through youth work and volunteering. And Youthpass is a validation tool as well. Validation is being defined on the European level as a process which consists of different phases. And in addition to this final phase of being compared to and being compared to some official formal standards, which is, I think, what people mostly understand under validation. There are these previous phases reaching to that aspect as well, namely the phase of reflecting, of identifying what have been my learning outcomes from this or that non-formal and informal learning process. And also documenting this learning and the learning outcomes. And that's especially where Youthpass, with the whole concept, with the process of reflection, where it does support validation as well. And as such, it's considered a validation tool. And all of you out there who are using Youthpass in your work and with your participants and volunteers, you are actually doing volunteering. You're actually doing a validation work as well. Yes, why we are not talking only about validation, but also about recognition as well. Still in our reflections and in our strategy is that, well, with the Youthpass concept, we are not only concentrating on this individual learning and the self-assessment and reflection on the individual learning, but we are also looking broader at creating better awareness for the learning value of youth work context. So that's why the concept of recognition is also still valid and relevant for us as well, in addition to validation. It's a little bit clumsy and long to talk about validation and recognition, but when we want to be complete, then both of them do make sense for us. But Edda, we have plans for publishing the strategy.
Yes, because now that we give the secret to youth and then a bit of hints to Youthpass strategy, I have a feeling that after this meeting, the audience then will be asking, okay, but how do we get it in our hands and where to know more about it? We are at the very final phases of designing and making it look good, but not just to look good, but also to transfer the messages of it properly. This is still requiring a bit of time, but we start the official countdown today with this event. So 28 days from today, so less than a month, just 4 weeks, 28 days exactly on 8th of July, we will be launching the strategy. We strongly encourage you, if you feel so, please follow us on social media, particularly Facebook, because we will be revealing bits and pieces of strategy, some insights of it weekly, regularly throughout this countdown. So you will have a bit more to ponder and think, but on 8th of July, you will also be able to see the digitally available finalized Youthpass strategy. Yeah, so we hope this is exciting news as it is for us. We are looking forward to that, but countdown officially starts now, so it's minus 28 days at the moment. Yeah, I guess for the moment this is as much as Youthpass strategy goes.
And that sounds very exciting. And thank you for sharing all this information. And I'm really curious to hear how this landed with everybody. If you would like to share with us in the chat, perhaps take a minute or two to take everything in. Maybe, Michele, we could spotlight Vanda's graphic recording so that we can see what she's been doing as we were speaking. And yeah, I'm going to ask everybody, what potential, what benefits do you see for yourself when it comes to the strategy? Anything that came to your mind as you were listening to Christina and Edda? Please share with us in the chat so that we hear how this arrived back to you.
So the chocolate made it to this recording together with an octopus. Very interesting.
Yeah. So as people are preparing to are writing their answers, I would like to ask you, Eda. I'm curious within all this context and everything that you've been sharing with us until now. Um, we are, of course, in 2021, and new programs were launched, which is great. Everybody's happy to explore what's new, what's changed. So maybe it would be really useful for us to hear a bit from you when it comes to Youthpass, and how does Youthpass prepare for these changes and for these new shifts that are happening right now?
Yeah. Well, yes, the programs are launched. So again, we are overwhelmingly NA intensive audience today in this webinar. So I know colleagues are very busy in different NAs to prepare for the programs, and then several organizations definitely are preparing for the applications. And we are very intensively preparing to get the certificates for Erasmus Plus Youth part and the European Solidarity Corps ready for the first projects that will be implemented within the new programs. So the new programs, I intend the 2021-2027 program periods. So we are expecting to launch the new certificates for the programs late summer. The certificates are planned for all learners of the programs. So, of course, young people taking part in the projects, but also youth workers and other individuals who play this role as learners. But we also foresee a possibility to create Youthpass certificates for team members. So these are what we are working on. The new Youthpass certificates will have a flexible structure. Those of you who are familiar with Youthpass might think of it in two sections. Now we are thinking of it in 3 sections that users can choose based on their needs. So a first part that shortly confirms the participation and gives very brief concise information on the project, dates and so on. A second part, hopefully many learners will make intensive use of, is to describe the learning context, learning process, and outcomes, learning outcomes or competences developed in taking part in a European Youth Project. And then an optional third part that gives a bit more detail on the projects. We may think of it as transcript almost, but not in the transcript in the way that it has grades or so. It just describes a bit more information on the context of the project, of the elements the project involved. So when needed, the certificate may give a bit more information on where this learning and this experience took place. So this is what we are working on, and the learners and those who support them can make more flexible use of this structure and choose those that applies to them and those that don't. Another important thing, and I hope I will see some smiling faces because this was a request from the field, is key competences are relevant for many of the young people who take part in these projects, but we know that for youth workers and other professionals as learners, these were not always matching the needs. So for this, we are working on using the ETS European Training Strategy competence model for youth workers working internationally. So if you are not familiar with that, again, in other sessions, you will hear more about ETS, but this will be the framework that will be used for youth worker and professionals Youthpass certificates. For now, very, very shortly, this is what I can say about this, but please also write in your questions in the chat. Don't think that they go unseen. We will refer to them during the meeting if possible. Otherwise, we will come to them in written form after the meeting. So, yeah. Having said that, Youthpass certificates is part of the development plan for the new programs and new within the plans in the strategy, but we are also foreseeing some developments within the Youthpass tool. And here I will give the word to Christina again.
Thank you. And if you can share the screen, that would also be great. Presentation. Because when we have been imagining and discussing how Youthpass should take off in the future, then we have been playing with the image of flying, and maybe some of you even know that that one of the promotional tools that we have creating is paper planes. So the planes that should help you fly through your competencies development and hopefully fly high. But thinking about how Youthpass itself should fly, then we rather had the impression that it's more like a rocket. So here I'm happy to present you a very initial schematic form of the Youthpass rocket. Well, new, yes, there are parts of it which are new, but of course the Youthpass, as you know, it is also part of it. Here in the middle, we have the certificates, so no worries, they will not disappear. In many contexts, they are relevant and should be there to describe and document the learning outcomes from the program activities. But to walk you through, to give you a little excursion in this rocket, I would like to start from the bottom. From the FIRE, where we have the participant, the organization, and the projects as part of the FIRE and the basis for this rocket. So one new element to be worked on soon in Youthpass as an IT tool is the participant profile. You may be aware that for the time being, it is only the organizations who have profiles or accounts in the Youthpass database. This will change. There will be participant accounts also added to that, so that the participants themselves would have more ownership for their certificates to start with, and later on also for the other elements of the Youthpass concept as well, so that they would have also more direct support through Youthpass for the learning process and for making their learning outcomes better visible. This is one aspect of it. To the right of the bottom part of the basement part, there's the organization profile that will also stay. And the middle part of it is the project or the activity where the learning takes part. And it's important for us to make it explicit that we see the learning in that project as in the long-term perspectives, that also the preparation and the follow-up phases of the project need to be seen as part of the learning process, and also what we aim to reflect better in the current Youthpass developments, current and future Youthpass developments, is that a project may depend or may consist of various activities. This is already the reality of many of the projects granted by the 2 youth programs. And this is what the Youthpass tool should also reflect better, as well as Youthpass certificates should reflect better in the future, so that the whole complete learning process in that project context can be better documented and made visible. Here, where there would be, I guess, normally the entrance to the rocket, there's the digital tool for reflection. So what we aim to support better with our Youthpass digital tool is also the reflection process itself. meaning that functions will be added to the Youthpass tool, which will enable the participants and organizations to already document the reflection process on the go, so to say, during the project as well. So there will be an online reflection tool added to Youthpass, which will support the participants and young people in the cases where they are not supported by organizations in their projects. But that will also offer support for the organizations as well for designing that reflection process together with the participants and for the participants as well. So it's not that we want to take away responsibility from the organizations and youth workers or other support people. That's clearly not the aim. But we want to offer this digital tool that would already offer the contexts and possibility for documenting the reflection and to offer this guidance through the digital tool to then step by step work towards the formulations that can then in the end of that process can be added to the certificate. The respective parts of descriptions of learning outcomes on the certificates. And on top of the rocket, there's the element which is at the moment called the summative Youthpass. It's a visionary part of it. We do not yet know very well how this will be like. That's new element of Youthpass, but the general idea of it is to offer the possibility to go beyond the certificate when displaying the individual learning outcomes and competencies that have been developed as part of having or as part of one's engagement in the European youth programs. So that one can have the possibility to extract the learning outcomes, the ones that will be relevant for the contexts where the young people or also the not so young people when it comes to youth workers, where they would like to display and demonstrate their competence development. There might be a possibility to create a summary of their learning outcomes. There might be a possibility to use the or make use of the current processes of digital client credentials. That might be the possibility to link Youthpass to these developments happening on the European level at the moment. But what I can definitely say at the moment is that the idea is there, the wish is there, and we will be working towards that. How exactly this will be looking like is a bit too early to say.
I think this is it, right, Christina? Yeah.
That's it about the new the plans for the new Youthpass, yes.
Yeah. I think it's fair to leave the space now to questions, but just to close, there are a lot of support and resources available on our website, youthpass.eu. So have a look if you are in the search for such. These are from videos about Youthpass and learning support to different kinds of publications, including research report that I referred to before, time to show off. Then we also organize training and support activities. And plus, you are always very much welcome to contact us through our help desk, you or your colleagues or the young people you work with. The email is there. You will also receive the presentation if you've registered for the event. And finally, the reminder to subscribe to SALTO newsletter to get news from all the resource centers and our social media, because we are counting down to launch the strategy as well. So thank you for listening to us. So I stop this. Yeah.
Thank you both. I think it was a lot of information, very useful. I see people connecting with various parts of it here in the comments and within the questions. So I think, yeah, it's a good moment to dive into some of the questions that were asked in the chat. So maybe we should start first with the strategy. And the question in the chat was, do you have some specific aims of your strategy? For example, in 5 years, how do you know your strategy was successful?
A very good question indeed, and it is more straightforward when we talk about assessing or evaluating the effect of our work when it comes to the Youthpass development. As we do screen the Youthpass figures quite closely, and have set ourselves aims, of course, related to the increase of numbers and perhaps more balanced use of Youthpass in the various contexts where it can be used. When it comes to the evaluation of how well have we reached out to others and other stakeholders, other partners, what has been the effect of the work of that? That's of course not so straightforward. But we do aim to monitor that closely through the surveys towards the national agencies. As I've said, they are the main partners of ours, as well as monitoring the effects of our own work. So it might be that when you're part of the development, that you may also be addressed with kind request to share your views about what has been the use of it all as well.
Great, thank you, Christina. We have now a bunch of questions related to the Youthpass, and I'm gonna first maybe invite Bahadir to ask a live question. If you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Danny. Mine is a little bit of a general question to maybe all of you. We came across a couple of complications as young people when trying to understand why they got this. What is this certificate good for? Of course, going through the website and everything, we tried to explain them what it is, how valuable is that and all, but say, well, is it good as a university diploma, or is it good as this and that? So there is a comparison because of it didn't sink in them yet what it is about. I was just hoping that you might have maybe a cliche explanation for this, that probably because this has been asked 500 times to you too previously when the Youthpass first started and everything. So that will be very helpful for us to explain people in a couple words instead of trying to talk 3 hours to make them understand what is Youthpass. That was my question. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
I think we will pass on with Christina on this. I can imagine Christina also has comments on this. That's quite a good question, and you are right. We receive this question often. Our answer may somehow transform on the occasion, but for some reason, while we were speaking this time, an answer came to my mind that I did not give in previous occasions. It's the Youthpass origami planes. We tend to say Youthpass is more than a paper. It's more than a certificate, because the process is the empowering part. This is also seen in the different testimonials of young people when they talk about their experience with Youthpass. There are definitely cases where they mention that it helped to get employment opportunity or further studies. So there are cases that young people themselves say that they used Youthpass and it helped, or they believe that it helped them. This is also backed by Ray research. Again, I am quite confident in the numbers, and it says around 60% of sorry, let me rephrase. There's a good amount of young people who use their Youthpass for a further employment or educational opportunity. And among them, those who use it, 2/3, so 60% say that they believe it helped in getting that position, and this is consistent across at least 2 different reports, consecutive reports of Ray Network. I can try to put the link in the chat. Again, also the direct testimonials of young people who say that, but we always say that the main value of Youthpass is the process, this giving the awareness on what young people are learning, what their competences are, giving the words, and also then supporting their confidence and being able to talk about their learning. Why I connected it to the origami planes is just, it came to my mind as a good metaphor of Youthpass being more than a paper and origami plane being more than a paper too. We have this small material that you can easily play around that helps to reflect on why a certificate such as Youthpass that is more than confirming participation, but also identifying the learning outcomes and competences can have value also from this point of view of empowering the young person or the learner in general. Yeah. Don't know if Christina, you have something to add to that, or if Bahadur, if this was a sufficient enough answer to your question, because you said maybe 2 sentences, mine was longer, but I tend to speak longer.
Maybe just to assure that that it's not that the chance is gone when the young people maybe do not see the value for them at this particular moment and do not wish to have it. From the Youthpass point of view and the database point of view, there is no final deadline by what time this is now finished, the whole process. And from our point of view, the certificates can also be created later. This is what does happen quite a lot, actually. We are pretty often, through our help desk, contacted and asked for the possibility to still receive the Youthpass certificate, even though the activity did already take place a number of years ago. So it might be that this awareness of, okay, this might be useful after all for this next step that I would like to take in my life, that this awareness comes a bit later. And as long as the support of the organization is still there to then support the young people with generating and issuing the certificate, it's also still okay. So what is important indeed during the project process is to ensure that the process is there, that the awareness is there, because that is a little bit difficult to catch up with later on when years have been gone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your question, and thank you for the answers. We have a few more minutes left and 2 questions. So I'm going to read both of them, and then I will let you both see if you can share shortly. They are very much related to the previous question as well. So one of them is it that the host organization has the main responsibility for Youthpass together with the volunteer, or does the sending organization have any part in this? So this was one of them. And the other one was a comment here in the chat, but I transformed it in a question. And it goes like this: how can we make the content and the importance of Youthpass visible, both for volunteers and mentors? And this was coming from somebody sharing that it would be a challenge to to make it visible in a way for them?
I take the first question. As quite often that we reply to such questions is that it's very flexible, depending on the context of the project, because we are aware that this field, international youth field and the programs is very diverse. So there can be flexibility that we are not able to foresee. But in our understanding in general terms, let me close that. So this flexibility depends on the context. So the organizations who are involved and the people who facilitate that process, the learning of young people and who manage the project can be a better judge of what makes sense for that specific project or for that specific participant, for that specific learner. But having said that, our tendency, or my tendency, but I think it's shared in the team, is to see this experience as this whole holistic experience. So it's definitely starts before a mobility starts, because generally there's preparation, there's a lot of learning while this is happening too, depending also on how much young people are engaged. And there's a lot of things that sending organizations or the mentors, support people in the sending organizations could do. So in this sense, to helping, supporting reflection, asking the right questions, preparing the ground for this, there's a lot that standing organizations could do. There are many who do. Of course, there's the communication and exchange between the organizations is also important to support this process. Then it also comes back to this sending organization or the sending context when the mobility is finalized and when this learner, young person, is back to their context. So there's quite some reflection to be done there too, not considering the support that is needed during the activity too. So what I would say is, ideally, if that's possible and if that makes sense for that context, then yes, it would ideally be a cooperation among the involved organization and the young person and the people who support that process. I hope this is sufficient.
Thank you, Eda. Christina?
Yes, regarding the remark that it is a challenge to make it visible what Youthpass means and why is it important, we agree. It is a challenge. We are exploring also different ways of dealing with it, creating videos that hopefully help to also bring the messages further in a more concise and creative visual way. And we are completely conscious and aware of it. It is an important task of this work, and we will be putting continuously effort into that. As one of the challenges also with the youth field is that there's quite some turnover as well. And even if some people who have been there for a while and think that they know what Youthpass is about and how to deal with it, still this message continuously needs to be brought over, and the drum needs to be beaten in a fitting way. The fitting ways, this is absolutely still a good question, and if you have good ideas about how to make that even better, then we will our ears will be very open, and we will be grateful for the hints.
Thank you, Christina. I see there are some more questions in the chat, so I'm just going to ask you if it's, because we will have to close this in a minute or two. Please do check out the links in the chat, and also feel free to contact Christina, Eda, and the rest of the team with any questions you may have. So as I said, we're getting close to the end of the webinar, and I want to thank you for being with us today and listening and participating and sharing from your experience and your questions. And I want to use this last minute before we close to share with you that this webinar is part of 6 online info sessions organized by SALTO Youth, and they are happening in all the month of June. I would like to invite Georg from SALTO European Solidarity Corps to share a bit with us what will the next webinar be about, in case maybe you are curious to join it and learn more about the work that they do. Hello, Georg.
Hello, and thank you very much for giving me the word. Next Tuesday already, we will put solidarity and volunteering into the spotlight. So my colleagues and me are going to talk about the questions of what solidarity means and what is the connection between solidarity and volunteering, but also a little bit about the opportunities that the new European Solidarity Corps program brings to the field. We are the youngest, the newest SALTO, and we are already very excited to introduce some of some aspects of our work to you. So next Tuesday, at the same time, 2 p.m. Central European Summertime. Thank you very much. Back to you.
Thank you, Georg. Yes, please do register for this next webinar and for all the rest of the webinars that are still left in June. Michaela, maybe you can put the link in the chat in case you do not have it at hand. And with this said, I want to officially close this and thank you all for being part of today's online session. Hope you had the chance to fulfill your learning intention for the day. Please do write in the chat if so, and for any other information that you may have, do contact the lovely people from SALTO Training and Cooperation. And please feel free to unmute yourself if you would like and say goodbye. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you everyone for your attention.